Yeah, look, I think there's really kind of two barriers we're facing here. One is just when is it going to open and the uncertainty that's creating and for companies as to when they're going to be able to go. But really what ultimately is going to impact them is with each passing day of this shutdown, the SEC is just going to be continually backed up because companies are moving ahead, filing, because Edgar is open. You can make a filing. It just gets filed and nothing happens. Filings are backing up, and it'll be a question of how the SEC unpacks that backlog.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. You said a company like Uber at least has resources to stay private for a little while longer. Tell us about some of the companies who are kind of in a jam to get public and might be caught up in this.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about a sector like biotech, medical devices, these are not companies who have the luxury of a big balance sheet. They're counting on this IPO as their next financing round to move their trials ahead, do the other things they're planning to do, make filings with the FDA. And this backlog and then the shutdown and the backlog are going to cause them to have to think about alternatives. They're already scrambling for Plan B, which frankly may not be that attractive and may not even be available on reasonable terms because they don't know when the shutdown will end or when they'll clear out.
When you talk about the backlog of filings, Alan, you know, we think of Edgar and we think of all sorts of filings that are sent to that database that we all go through on a daily basis. I mean, are you talking about not only IPO filings, but also just capital raises, earnings filings that the SEC has to go through? I mean, give us an idea of how big this backlog could actually be once the SEC, once its 4,400 employees get back on the job.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one because, you know, you can now, certainly for an IPO and even a follow-on in certain circumstances, submit confidentially. So all of the things you're seeing on Edgar, there's a whole load more that are submitted confidentially. Certainly every initial filing for an IPO is confidential. So the backlog is, you know, hard to figure out, but based on, you know, what I know, bankers, others in the area, others who do what I do, it's large and growing because the IPO this year is hopefully still going to be a big IPO year. And I think to some extent, by the way, the uncertainty of the market fluctuation has actually increased the number of filings because the ability to say, well, don't worry, I'll do it later. I can do it when I want, has got people a little bit spooked even before this shutdown. Maybe we need to get in line and be ready to go.
Will some companies that might have intended to go IPO early this year find themselves in a position where they have to sell to a separate private buyer, or secondarily go to an unconventional financing source, though private equity isn't all that unconventional anymore, to raise capital?
Yeah, I think that'll be a very real possibility, particularly in the biotech medical device space where companies will run out of money. I think you'll also see financings done, private financings, perhaps at valuations akin to their last round, where they would have been looking for a step up in the IPO, but they're forced to kind of go at a valuation that's lower just to get some money in the bank.